for the first ever episode of HorseGirlTV. I'm your host, Angela Kelly. Today we meet former groom of Anky van Grunsen, Tiffany Tyler, where we get to take a peek inside and learn some of Anky's grooming secrets. So this is Tiffany Tyler. Tiffany, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So what made you take the career path you did? What was it that inspired you to contact Anky?
I thought I needed to work with the best. You know, you want to be the best, you should work with the best. And so I just emailed Anky's website. 6 months later, I was fortunate enough to be on a plane to Holland, ready to start working for her.
What was a typical day like at Anky's?
A typical day, we started at 7 o'clock in the morning. We would feed the horses and muck the stalls, turn out horses, and all of Anky's horses would get hand walked, and then she would start riding the horses around 9 o'clock. And then in the afternoon, she would always give lessons to her regular students, and the working students and grooms got to be in the lessons as well. And then by 6 o'clock, we would feed the horses dinner, and we were done.
So as a working student, you had the opportunity to ride. You got to take lessons.
As long as we weren't at shows or if there was room in the lesson and there was time.
So if you could narrow it down to one thing, like one tool or one special experience that you had at Anky's, what would you say that would be?
I would definitely say one of the coolest experience I had was grooming for her at Aachen. It was like going to one of the greatest shows on earth without having all the pressure. It was definitely pressure to live up to Anky's expectations, but obviously it's a different pressure than actually riding there yourself. It was great to see how she prepared for a show and the things that she would do to get ready. I mean, what better way than to watch the best rider in the world, how long she does her warm-up and she goes in the ring at this time.
How did she prepare to go into the ring? Like what was the typical pre-planned?
You know, each horse is different. Everything, especially around her top horse, Solanero, nothing was ever rushed because it would make him very nervous. So everything was planned out to the minute. It was very orchestrated, and it was important not just for the horse, but for her as well.
So what do you think it takes to have a competitive career in equestrian sports?
You know, I would just have to tell someone to really, first of all, decide if that's what you want to do. It's not something that you can just do from 9 to 5. It becomes your life. If you want to do it well, you should decide you want to do it and put your mind to it and don't let anyone tell you you can't. A lot of people see big riders and think that it just comes naturally for them. But I can honestly say that Anky is one of the hardest working people that I've ever met in my life. And she's very good, but she also works very, very hard for it. More than anything, it just takes the determination and the practice. I mean, just continual, painstaking practice, and stay positive, because if you don't stay positive, it can get really hard at times.
So Horse Girl mail. We have mail. Oh. We don't even have viewers yet. That's incredible.
Huh.
So Jeanette from Philadelphia writes, Dear Horse Girl, how do you train a mane to lay properly on one side?
Well, ideally, you would like to have good genetics. I personally would train a mane by banding it or braiding it to the side of your preference, making sure that you take the bands out every couple days, otherwise they will rub the bands and break off the hair. Part 2 is making sure not to pull the mane too short. No more mail?
We were meeting today with Tiffany Tyler talking about grooming for Anky. Tiffany's been kind enough to demonstrate braiding the Anky way on Dutch Cobb Stallion Silko. These types of braids are generally better if it's done on a fairly thick, fairly long mane. Here's what you'll need: a comb, a hair clip, rubber bands, a pair of scissors, a needle that is rather thick with a blunt end, and waxed thread. The waxed thread can be challenging to find, but you can buy it online at tandyleather.com. To start your braids, separate your pieces of mane out into equal sections. Next, you take an individual section and separate it into 3 equal parts and braid it as you would a normal braid, keeping it as tight as possible. Then secure the bottom of the braid with a rubber band. Now take your needle and thread it with the wax thread, tying the end with a simple square knot. Next, push the needle and thread through the bottom of the braid and wrap the thread around the rubber band several times to secure the thread to the braid. Then bring the needle up through the back of the braid about halfway and pull the thread all the way through to create a fold. Now push the needle back down the middle front side of the braid and thread it through the bottom. Once more, bring the needle up through the back of the braid and back down again. To create the nice button effect, push the needle back up through the top of the braid at the base of the mane and thread the needle all the way through to double the braid over. Finally, to secure the braid, sew the needle and thread down and back up again through the middle of the button 4 or 5 times and cut the remaining thread off. And there you have it, a perfectly coiffed mane. Thanks, Tiffany and Silko.
Thanks a lot for coming by today, Tiffany. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Angela. And good luck with HorseGirlTV.
Thanks for watching the first episode of HorseGirlTV. See you next time.
This episode of HorseGirlTV has been made possible by DreamHost.